And welcome everybody to week 2. This week we're going to be focusing in on chapter 2 in your Selling in the Sport Industry book. This specific chapter deals with sales in the sport organization. So looking kind of at organizational structures, organizational charts, and talking about responsibilities within each different type of salesperson. Now, keep in mind that the book is pretty heavily focused in on professional sport organizations. They do talk about collegiate athletics a little bit, but keep in mind there are so many other forms of sales and organizations that have sport sales. Specifically for my experience, working with the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, I was essentially working as the head of an organization, or head of a department rather, where I had somebody below me who was kind of a coordinator role, and then an intern specifically. And we were tasked with creating about 180 events a year and generating revenue based off of an experience that we were selling the Olympic and Paralympic training centers for these experiences. So very different than ticket sales, very different than merchandise sales, very different than media rights, but also very similar because we're talking about sales. And again, going back to chapter 1 and kind of our first lecture, sales is relationship building. It's essentially a mutualistic relationship where somebody's providing a service or products to someone who is looking to consume those products or services. So just keep in mind that we're going to talk a lot about kind of the professional organization, but that there are so many other models that are out there. So here are the key terms. Again, you've seen these in your book. Hopefully, you know most of these already. Some that you'll see from chapter 1, such as CRM. So at this point, we're going to stop calling it customer relationship management software. We're going to start calling it CRM specifically. Others that we've probably seen, we've seen inside sales before. We've heard inbound sales, rather, inbound calling, outbound calling. We've seen some of these already. Season ticket sales. We've seen a lot of this information so far. So just make sure that you're familiar with these terms. Trivia, they may come in on a quiz or something like that. So just make sure that you're aware of these. So again, I highlight to say that this is a major league sport organizational structure. In a major league sport organization, you typically have the owner or the CEO, also known as a chief executive officer, who essentially oversees the entire organization. And then you have two separate and very distinct, while they're all kind of funneling under the owner and the CEO, very, very different sides of the sport organization. So you have the operations side and you have the business side. So you have the operations, and think of operations as any sort of team you've ever been a part of, right? You're going to have the director of scouting, you're going to have the general manager, you're going to have the head coach and the players. All the specific sports side of the organization is under the operations. So the operational aspect. And you think about maybe a professional basketball team. I used to work with the Indiana Pacers. And the Indiana Pacers, if you think traditionally of people think about the Indiana Pacers, they think of this operational side, right? They think of the players, they think of the coaches, the people who they're actually seeing on the court, doing the job, but they probably don't think about the business side. And the business side is very much what we're talking about here. You're talking about your ticket sales. You're talking about your finance. You're talking about your human resources. You're talking about your IT. You're talking about essentially the same segments of a business like any other business in any other industry, right? And it's actually kind of funny because when I was working with the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee, I had people all the time that said, "Oh, you're not that you work for the committee." They would say, "Oh, you're on the committee." And it's like, well, not necessarily. It is. It's just called a committee, but it's actually an organization. And then people would always say, "Well, if you work for the Olympics, what do you do the rest of the 4 years?" Right? And I had to talk to that question all the time. It's like, first of all, there's an Olympic Games every 2 years, not just every 4 years. But we're an organization just like any other organization, such as every sport organization out there. Every organization, with sport or non-sport, is very similar in model to any sort of business that's out there in terms of, the core functions, the marketing, the legal, the finance, the HR, the IT, all of those things that you would typically have in a business, you're going to have in a sport organization as well. So let's look specifically at the sales staff structure. So essentially you have inside sales. So inside sales are sales personnel, as you can see, who utilize the telephone and or online means to sell rather than traveling outside the organization's facilities to sell face-to-face. So you have your outside sales, which are people who are out there, outside of the office, outside of, the business, selling to people either face-to-face or via other mediums. And then you have your inside sales, which are the people who are in the office trying to contact people to make sales, right? Transfer of services, transfer of products done via the telephone or done via online media. And that can either be, cold calling, it can be warm calling, the traditional boiler room approach that we talked about, where people are, a bunch of people are sitting in a room and they're just dialing every phone number that they can get in a phone book, which I know is obsolete now, but into a phone book and trying to talk to anybody that they can, as opposed to a warm lead, which might be somebody that has shown some sort of interest, has maybe come to a game, or maybe has a previous communication or connection, with people within the sales team or the organization. Then you have, within inside sales, you also have your ticket sales reps. Your ticket sales reps are doing exactly that. They are selling tickets, right? Most of them, they're sitting at a box office or they're sitting, somewhere where they're, basically point of sale. They have people that are coming up to buy tickets, the old traditional way of people coming to the arena, wanting to buy a ticket to the game, and they're doing that through the ticket sales representatives. Then you have your account execs. All right. So your account execs are essentially the ticket sales reps that have been promoted. So the people that do really well at the ticket sales reps, those are the people who become kind of account executives and get a little bit more responsibility and have true accounts that they oversee, right? And then you have your group sales. So group sales is usually categorized by 15 to 20 tickets per game. So groups of 15 to 20 tickets or more. And so you'll have these people who maybe are account executives, have been account executives, and now are working in group sales that have a little even more responsibility than the ticket sales reps, than the account execs that have a little more responsibility and therefore are in charge of dealing with bigger number of volume and groups that have more money that's coming into the organization. You also have your season ticket sales. So people they're working on season tickets. Season tickets used to just be what you think of, season long tickets. Now there are different options for that. You have mini plans where, they'll sell 10 games instead of the entire season, or you'll have weekend, season tickets, or you'll have weekday season tickets. There are a number of different, season ticket styles that are out there. And so there's a lot more attention that goes into things like that. They're really focused on kind of the retention as well. So not just the selling of the tickets, but also keeping these people happy, making sure that, they're popping in to see them, making sure that they're aware of the other, perks that their season tickets have, and making sure that they're renewing. As you can imagine, someone who's paying for season tickets is spending a lot more money than somebody who's just paying for one ticket or one game. So you need to make sure that you're focusing in on these people to keep them happy and to keep them purchasing for the next season. Then you have your premium sales, which is even higher level at some point in certain ways, because they're spending more money, right? So you have your luxury suites, you have your club seats, and then you have what's considered high priced inventory. Perhaps that's floor seating at NBA games. Perhaps that's the seats right behind home plate in Major League Baseball games. So your high level tickets, and your high value tickets are considered premium sales. Then you have your corporate sales people. So corporate sales is focused on exactly what it says, corporate partnerships rather than tickets. So corporate sales meaning that there is that Nike or Humana or any sort of company that is willing to spend a lot of money to partner with an organization, right? You have Oracle Arena where the Golden State Warriors play. Oracle Arena is sponsored by Oracle, right? The company Oracle. All right. So that's kind of the corporate sales that they're focused on, kind of those partnerships as opposed to just pure tickets. A lot of times tickets will be included in any sort of corporate partnership, but it's not the sell. It's really the partnership that includes other benefits such as tickets. Then you have your support staff. So any sort of support staff, administrative support staff, you have support staff that are checking in on these people. You're checking in to make sure that that everybody's taken care of, that everybody's happy, and that nothing is being lost by any of the salespeople. Then you have your ticket ops or box office management. We touched on this a little bit, but your ticket ops, your box office management, again, is what we talked about, is that traditional ticket office where people can come to the game, they can buy tickets right at the door and then walk on in. There's not a whole lot that goes beyond that. There's not a whole lot of customer relationship. There's not a lot of relationship building that goes into it. The customer's coming to the window because they're looking for tickets, and the ticket office or the box office management staff is taking care of that need and getting them into the game. And then finally, you have what we've talked about in the past, which is your CRM, which is essentially a system to allow the salespeople to keep all this straight, to keep all this fleshed out, and to keep it efficient, to keep it effective, to make sure that you're checking in on customers, to make sure that you're talking to them about retention, and that you're talking to them about opportunities that they're either utilizing within their tickets, or perhaps they're missing some of the benefits that are there. So you're making sure that you're doing those things. So some of the other important sales terms that are out there, and we've talked about a few of them, so I'm going to brush through pretty quickly. So you have your inbound sales and you have your outbound sales. And really the difference is the request of the sale. So the inbound means that the request is coming into the organization. So somebody such as myself, a consumer, picking up the phone, calling the Indiana Pacers and saying, "Hey, Indiana Pacers, I want to buy tickets to your game. What can I do?" That's an inbound sale. And then you have your outbound sales, right? Outbound sales meaning that a salesperson is picking up the phone and calling a consumer and saying, "Hey, these are the tickets that are available. Are you interested in buying these tickets?" So that's the difference, inbound, outbound sales. Also, a lot of organizations, and it touches on this in the book a little bit, might not be big enough or might not have enough resources to hire out a full sales team. And so they outsource this. Outsource meaning that an organization or a separate entity will sell on behalf of the organization. All right. This is commonly used in collegiate sports, both on the corporate partnership side as well as on the ticketing side. So a university will actually hire said organization, outsourced company to act on behalf of the organization. And you can imagine that in a way, organizations that do this is their expertise. This is what they're focused in on. So they are all sales all day, every day. So it can be a benefit to an organization to perhaps pay a little bit less money internally to have somebody do it on your behalf. Could be better payment structure that's there as well, rather than an organization having to pay out commission and things of that nature. Perhaps the outsourced company has incentives in place that are much more beneficial to salespeople, and such. Outsourcing is an option, and you see that quite a bit. Most universities will do it that way. And then customer service. Customer service. This is pretty straightforward. Making sure that the service level that the customers are receiving is at a premium all the time, because it just takes one bad experience to really ruin an organization for someone. And I'm sure we all have experiences of that in some way or shape or form.